authorities are presented in the human design lore as being how you make decisions, right? And your authority is really good for helping to make decisions. But thinking of it as only that is a reduction of what that capacity actually has to offer you. Because when you get more and more hooked up with your authority, it becomes a guiding force in your life. And it can support you in many, many different situations. And it can expand into really kind of being like your divine self, just right here with you, just right here, walking a side by side with you, holding your hand, having their hands on your back, helping you to know that you are not alone and that you have support. Because for me, the authority is just the human design way, like I said, of are you hooked up with your divine self, right? Are you tapped into the inner guidance that's available to you from your spiritual aspect or not? And then your strategy is another aspect of how are you hooked up again with that divine life force that is animating your form, has this relationship in that singularity, and is here to work with you, right? And I know I'm going to give you access to a meditation from one of my main spiritual teachers named Oren, who's channeled by Sneh Roman. And one of the things that I've learned from Oren, but I've heard from many different light beings, is you could ask more. You could ask a lot more. You could be asking for support multiple times a day instead of once every 6 months when you're depressed, something really horrible happened and you sit down and you pray, right? It's like you could ask for support ongoingly. And if we think about the generative questions that are offered for generators, I think generative questions are great for no matter what your type is, because generative questions are your way of letting the flow of life, that creative intelligence of the universe or your divine self, what it is you want some support around, right? I'm wondering what's the best next step for me. I'm wondering who I need to talk to. I'm wondering if there's some learning I need to do. I'm wondering if there's something I need to understand about myself that I do not currently understand. I wonder what I need to practice in order to bring this subconscious block that I have up to the surface so that I can release it and make new choices. I wonder what that is, right? And you're putting it out there to that divine self, right? If you prefer to think of it as connecting directly to the universe or that creative intelligence, you certainly can do that. But I do think it's dependent on a spiritual orientation, right? A lot of people do not teach human design as a spiritual system, which I think really diminishes its significance. To me, it's a fundamentally spiritual system. After all, it's drawn from 4 different spiritual wisdom traditions, right? So it is a spiritual system, and it is inviting us and teaching us how do we get connected? How do we evolve out of the radical reduction of our consciousness that we have agreed to through left brain logic? How do we evolve out of that so that our left brain intelligence can stay with us, but it comes into balance with all of our other forms of intelligence? So I just say that whatever your type is, that the generative questions are great, because basically what you're doing is you're opening a conversation with that divine self and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. And depending on your type, you will interact with that differently, right? You may experience it differently, but the feedback that you get or the response that you get, but it's still, we are all human beings, and we are all in the process of growing our capacity to understand what it means to be a spiritual, energetic force, right? That is looking out through your eyes, that is speaking with your voice, that is feeling with your skin, right? That is our core nature, our nature, right? And yet we've been taught that that's not the case. And so this is big work, you guys. When you really get it, it's big work. It's a big assignment, and it's oh so worth it. I really believe that this is a core component, not everything, but a core component of what we need to be in that state of emergence that I was talking about, rather than in the breakdown. Because when we get too oriented to the breakdown, it's hard to stay stable. It's hard to stay uh, uh, empowered and confident, which doesn't mean that we don't want to be compassionate or pay attention, but we want to be able to do it from a resourced state, not from a state where, if we watch what just happened in Florida, is happening in Florida right now, if we watch that, we don't get pulled down into this state, this sense of, catastrophe, right?